bit at the moment, so we all should be wearing masks too, just as a precaution with COVID's going around south and the rest of the country quite well at the moment. Apologies, I've got John Pemberton and Alistair. Alistair may hook in, but I think that's all. I'll move her and seconder for that, please.
Right.
Lyndall and Paul. All in favour, say aye. Right. Go through any declarations of interest, none that I know of. We'll move straight into public forum. We have the Murihiku Kai collective representatives. They can come forward and welcome. The normal procedures that we've got 5 minutes, but they're pretty. And we can point of clarification. We can ask questions, and we're not here to debate, but I don't think you might want to be debating anyway. But welcome. It was yours.
Thank you. Is it okay if I remove my mask?
Yes. If you're speaking, yeah.
Okay. Tēnā koutou, ngā kia koutou katoa. Thank you for having me to speak on behalf of the Murihiku Kai Collective this morning regarding creating a good food roadmap for Murihiku. So I'm Rochelle Francis, who uri o Ngā Pui, Ngāti Punanga me Ngāti Maru, and this is Anna Palliser, who's a wonderful tutor at SIT, including since this year in food sustainability as part of the environmental management. So I'm here to report back on a one-day co-design workshop which we held in August this year. We'll go to the next page. Okay. So we had around 70 participants from across Murihiku Southland, including mana whenua, local food producers and suppliers, Kaupapa Māori initiatives, social and health agencies, including Māori and Pacifica and Food Relief, people working in education, social enterprise, SIT, environmental management, and tutors and students, community organisations, volunteers, Coin South, elected local government representatives and MP, local and regional council staff, Garden to Table, and people with lived experience of food poverty. Thank you to those that are here that attended. So we utilised the next slide, please. We utilised the Good Food Roadmap Strategic Framework, which was developed by Healthy Families South Auckland and the Southern Initiative, and is now being adopted in various parts of Aotearoa. I printed out a copy of the full framework, which has been circulated to each of you. So this helped guide our kōrero by defining our desired future state and 5 key areas of focus. You can just dispense with the slides if it's not helpful, and I can just talk to it if you prefer. We're on to the next slide now. So in our co-design workshop, we began by asking people to share their vision for Murihiku Southland's food system. And this slide summarises some key themes which emerged. And really, in essence, participants want food to be affordable and sustainable, affordable and accessible to our whole community, while supporting the health of people and the planet, and sustaining a strong local economy, which I'm sure is a vision that we can all come behind. So next slide. Participants spent time exploring the burning issues. It's clear our community is very concerned about how difficult it is for people to access good food and believe action is needed. The burning issues include poor access and affordability of good food versus unhealthy fast food, food waste, lack of diversity in locally grown foods and the need for more growers, reliance on national, international distribution chains, with our local food system trying to compete with the supermarket duopoly, issues around land use, water, soil health, and escalating impacts of climate change, a lack of regional strategy and collective approach to addressing the root causes. So the images on the slides are images of some of the kind of workshop feedback, but there's a lot more in the background. It's really just for kind of visual, I guess. So next slide. So we gathered our participants around the 5 ideals of good food movement, which are food equity, food sovereignty, food culture and traditions, food for health and well-being, and food resilience. So the beauty of using this framework is that everyone's able to locate themselves inside these 5 areas and see how their mahi connects with the broader vision. And each of these needs to be reached towards in tandem and as part of an overarching strategy and action plan in order to achieve our big picture goal. So next slide. There's just some images here around the mahi our breakout groups did. So our community members gathered around these 5 ideals and identified the strengths and resources that exist in our community to support each of these and the challenges that we face also. So then into the interesting bit, which is our next slide again, I'm so sorry. We dedicated a focus time to ask, how might we utilise the resources and address the challenges to move us towards our desired future state? Here is a selection of the ideas that, well, some of the ideas that came out, and I'm just going to explain 3 of them very, very briefly. So next slide. One group refined their idea for a regional CHI coordinator. Similar roles exist in other parts of New Zealand, helping connect and facilitate collaboration of people working inside the food system in a region. They are often funded and based out of councils. This role was conceived as reporting to the Murihiku CHI Collective. Then there was a so if you go 2 slides forward now, one more. Yeah, so it was an idea put forward by Zeb Horrell from Riversdale, as some of you might know, to convert underutilised public spaces into permanent food production, which is by no means a new idea, but his ideas around methods and approaches are innovative and are being trialled in his hood, which made it even more exciting to look into further. And then the third idea is around, next I think, yeah, it's around food hubs. So these are being used nationally and internationally to reinvigorate local food systems. In fact, Anna, as part of her Fulbright scholarship, visited a food hub in Providence, Rhode Island, and so these utilise economies of scale to alleviate challenges that small-scale producers commonly face and work on a principle of collaboration rather than competition. So we're on to the next and final slide now. So just wanted to give you a wee snapshot to show you that our community really does hold the answers to rejuvenating our local food system. It's an absolute privilege to work alongside them in this bold endeavour. We'll continue to meet together and co-create this regional strategy and action plan for food system interventions. We would love your continued support and participation in this. For now, we just wanted to update you and provide some uplifting news and food for thought to take into your Christmas holidays.
Some questions, Robert, and Peter, and Philip.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that. It's very interesting, of course. When you say our community is concerned about food sovereignty, do you differentiate between the community that lives in villages, towns, and the city, and those who live on the farm? Because it may be that farmers aren't concerned about this at all. Is that your experience? And I mean, I know you talk about Zeb Horrell here. He's obviously a farmer. I'll send a link of his video around for these guys because it's very interesting what he's doing. But do you differentiate? Have you noticed?
I think that I think there's broad concern in all parts of our community about the food system. Different people's concerns will be different because everyone has a different perspective. But generally, all people share concerns around our food system, whether it's you know, the fact that they see other people in the community struggling to pay for food, or whether it's that they see, systemic problems that are impacting their businesses, whatever it is, I think everyone actually is concerned about these issues.
Thank you.
Do you have one? Oh, yep, sorry. Peter, then Phil, was it?
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Then,
Thanks very much, Rochelle, for that. Do you see what you're talking about, resilience, food resilience, as part of a climate change, fits within the climate change space?
Yes, I think that the international research and discourse that's coming out is definitely highlighting how climate change is going to significantly impact on the way we are going to feed ourselves in the future. And we've definitely seen through the pandemic how disruptions to supply chains due to the pandemic have impacted food supply, and even down here. So we know that with climate change there will be escalating storm events, which will also impact on distribution chains. And then obviously those weather events that we've seen even in recent years around Aotearoa, which have impacted crops and led to shortages of different foods. So it is, I think, something that ties in very, very closely to climate change, and as it also links to things around water, land use, carbon sequestration, all that kind of stuff. It's it all fits together quite nicely. So it would make a lot of sense to have it as an area of focus of the climate change that the council is doing.
Can I just add one little thing there? I agree with everything that Rochelle said. I think it's important as well that we don't just submerge it within climate change framework, because what we're also talking about is building more communities. Food resilience and food security for local areas kind of invades every area. You know, it kind of links in with every area. So if you just put it just under climate change, the danger is that we just look at it that way, whereas we could be looking at it to boost tourism, we could be looking at it to boost local economies, we could be looking at it for job creation as well. So I think it's quite important to think about where it's going to be situated in the council's climate change for sure, but it's not just a climate change thing that we're talking about.
Thank you.
Chair, thank you for your presentation. And I guess one idea I might share or ask about is the UNESCO Creative Cities Network have included the UNESCO designation of a city of gastronomy, and within New Zealand I understand no city or major town as yet sees that opportunity in terms of the UNESCO City of Gastronomy designation, and that could potentially be one that, with some collaborative input from agencies in South, and we might pursue, that could potentially raise the awareness of the opportunities in the region, ranging from Hingakai through to the contemporary food system.
It's exactly what Providence City, which is bigger than Chicago, but that's what they have achieved. They call themselves a food capital, and now they've got a wide area of local procurement businesses. So they've got restaurants that specialise in local food, and people come from outside of Providence to take advantage of the strong emphasis on local specialist food that grows in this region or is prepared in this region. So they really capitalised on that, and it has boosted the local economy.
There are a range of international charters in relation to food that I'm trying to remember one. I think I mentioned it at the regional climate change hearing that Environment Southland hosted earlier this year. It just really needs a backbone organisation, people to take the time to look over these things, to bring advice to council in order for these matters to progress. And at the moment, there is no dedicated, person or resource within our Southland councils or any agencies I'm aware of to actually progress things in relation to this. Food tourism, yes, within Great South, but that's as far as it goes. So hence that idea of the regional CHI coordinator that was put forward by the participants at the Good Food Roadmap workshop, which I think would be a really sensible starting point to be able to kind of accelerate work in this space.
Lyndall and Paul. And
Thanks, Chairman. Rochelle's just answered my question actually, because I was going to ask what next, and what needs to happen. So you've answered that. Thanks.
Thank you. That would be a good starting point. And just I think have the councils decide how it's going to how they can best be involved with and connected into this work, so that there's that ease of collaboration going forward.
Thank you. So with regards to good food and land use, obviously, education, propagation, even corporate donation, even assistance in that respect. I know in our community we've got a community garden put in place because the council donated some land too, and corporate have assisted in that. And there's a terribly high need. It's for the thriving community that we need to have this. The food bank is bulging with wanting food, and it's not known by the majority of the community that that's the situation. We have a local restaurant that produces their own and grows their own. They've bought land and have done for around about 15 years of producing it. And every day the owner goes out and collects their own vegetables and all food in the restaurant. So there's a lot of people out there trying to do good things. It's just the same with you guys trying to get it out there. Just need to see what good things are happening itself and assist.
The other thing that people haven't been as aware of, and they should be, is the tremendous loss of local growers. So community garden is brilliant. People have more sovereignty on what they grow. We've lost so many small local growers because of the supermarket duopoly and the way that whole food chain works. But that's actually quite scary in terms of the threats to our globalised system, that we're not actually growing food. We've got tremendous potential to grow a lot of food, and there's a lot that we're not growing here anyway.
So we're seeing the duopoly presenting food that's travelled thousands of miles using carbon and very little plastic. We need to be looking at fresh today and tomorrow.
If I can respond, I think that's a really good summary of some of the issues and what we see happening in the community in an attempt to respond to the issues that we're facing. I guess the difficulty is the food system is very complex, and the issues that intersect are also incredibly complex and wicked problems. And this is why we need to bring together people with a high level of knowledge and skill and expertise in this area, provide them with skills and support to be able to actually innovate and develop and trial solutions that are going to be sustainable and effective in the long term, because food banks are not. Community gardens are wonderful, but they will not feed our whole, population. So yeah, and I guess that's the thinking behind bringing people together in this collaborative fashion and working alongside as a community. It's a long game that we're playing here. And thank you so much for listening and putting your mind to these issues. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for bringing us in and keeping us informed of what's going on too, and certainly staff we can help in any way. We'll they'll be open to being involved. So thanks. Yeah. Right, we'll move on to the confirmation of the minutes of the 12th inaugural meeting of the council, 28th October.
Happy to move, Mr. Chair, with one slight typo, top of page 16, Neville Cook's name's got an E on it. Apart from that, it all looks good. Happy to move.
Got in before mine. That was good. No, have we got a seconder for that? Councillor Cook. Are there any discussion apart from that? All good. I'll put that. All in favour, say aye. Against, carried. Next, move on to the extraordinary meeting, the council, 16th of November 2022. I'm going to move to Morris. Seconder. Lyndall, any alterations, or everybody happy with that? I'll put that. All in favour, say aye. Against, carried. Move on to the adoption of the committee resolutions. Yes, so we'll put first on the risk and assurance subcommittee for the infrastructure and the 2nd of November. Okay, move it for that.
Happy to move that, Chairman.
And the seconder. Peter, any discussion? I'll put that. All in favour, say aye. Against, carried. Move on to strategy and policy, 16th of November 22. Do I have a mover for those?
Happy to move that and make any comments or answer any questions.
Second. Second, Eric. All in favour, say aye. Against, carried. Move on to regulatory committee, 17th of November 22. Can I have a mover for those? Mr. Neville and a seconder. Paul, any discussion
Yes.
in regards to that?
Sorry, Chairman, I was present and not recorded as such, but also item 9 on that those minutes it's not entirely correct. We had to change that. Given that I'm not a member of that committee, remember, we need to change that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was just amended.
So what do we?
Yeah, page 33 of the large document.
Yes. And.
Yes, it does.
Page 33, where are we?
Appropriately speaking, but there.
Yes, so, is it the matter of?
It's item 9 on the.
Yeah, so what are we actually saying?
I thought I nominated it because Linda wasn't on the committee. That was.
Yeah. Confusion there. Yeah.
So you weren't
I
allowed
was
to nominate.
present, but I'm not a member of that committee, so I couldn't make that
So
nomination.
does it actually go
Fix
through?
that as we went through.
Check
So
it on
we-
page 34, though, not page 34.
Yeah, I'm just wanting to be clear about what we're actually amending. So what
So did anybody else nominate? Yes, you've always done a mistake with mine. We need to.
We did fix it in the process of the meeting.
Probably need something like nomination lapse because of no secondary in the council, let alone not able to move
Yeah.
the resolution.
It's essentially what happened.
Yeah. This needs to be recorded. That's what happened. Lapse because,
Nickel, sorry if you got.
I believed I actually, after we realised that Melinda wasn't on the committee, I thought I had actually moved you. I'm pretty sure that was what happened.
yeah, no, you have, but,
I'll move Chairman. Hold on,
yeah, on the next page.
Yeah.
So we changing names there.
Yeah,
We're happy, or what do you hear?
Well, you see, what you've got in the minutes is move council, but it needs nomination lapsed after it.
You leave the resolution and it's not.
Okay. We'll go by Jan. So apart from that, you're happy to make those adjustments? Any other discussion? We've got a mover and seconder, haven't we? So I'll put that with that amendment, and we will all in favour say aye. Against, carry. For the Risk Insurance Committee, 6th December 22, got a mover. Picking up for that, please.
We've got regional service.
Oh, sorry. I'll put- Yep, thank you, Morris. Regional Services Committee, we've got too many ticks here. Mover and seconded for that. Peter.
If I can make some comment.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the meeting was a reasonably lively one, but there's a really important part in there that it was resolved that we invite Professor Ian Fuller to address the council at the Winton meeting we had. That never happened, but so Ian Fuller is a professor in geography specialising in river management. So that is in there, so we'll continue and follow that up at some later stage.
Good, we've got a seconder for that. Morris. No other discussion, I'll put that, all in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Right, well, now we'll move on to the Risk Insurance Committee, 6th of December, 2022, by the mover.
Yeah.
Lyndall.
And if I can just draw your attention to item 2, which is the recruitment of an independent chair for the Risk Insurance Committee, and the resolutions here, in particular, number 4, which is at some point we will need to nominate up to 4 councillors to form a selection panel to undertake that recruitment. And also item 5, which was the Employment Assistance Program. Asked that Ms. Kubrick circulated that information, and I'm pleased to see that that came through in the CD's update. So thanks very much for it. I move that.
Lyndall, seconder. Bill. Any other discussion? We'll put that, all in favour, say aye. Against, carried. Right, I don't know of any notifications. The notifications of extraordinary and urgent business. No supplementary reports are other. So we'll move on to questions. There are no questions that I know of. We'll move on to chairman and councillor reports. Nicole, do you?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll just a couple of comments. The regional sector meeting, there's quite a few new faces there. Robert, you'll be delighted to see that there are 2 Maori chairs there now, and one had come from a climate change background. So yeah, quite a lot of different faces around the table there. I attended the New Zealand Farm Environment Trust National Sustainability Showcase in Christchurch, and just, with a wee bit of an effort to go there, but it was very well received. Parliament was an urgency, and I was the only one of the chairs of the. It was this 12 regional councils actually fund local events. Very good evening, a bit like our own. Very positive, uplifting evening. So it was good to attend that. And I think it's just a lesson for us that if we go out to 2 groups, they really appreciate it. The Trust Transitions meeting with Minister Megan Woods and Reno Turkotny at the Bluff Marae, it all seemed to go very well, and we put in quite a plug. They were going through their budget rounds for continued funding for Southland to basically manage its own destiny, and so that meeting seemed to go pretty well as well. Jeremy, you were on the Zoom of the South Island Regional Councils meeting there about a week ago, and there's a very strong alignment between the regional councils to actually work closely together, collaborate, and to be able to share resources where we can. And there's quite a desire to catch up and sort of share information. But I think apart from unless there's any questions of any of my activities, I'll be happy to leave it there.
Questions? Peter?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I've got just a couple of quick reports. One from Dipton Catchment Group. They're initiating a carbon zero project out of the district. It's funded to the tune of $92,000. It's going to be starting in the new year and going through to May. So they're going to be 4 to 5 farms are going to be modelled on their outputs, and then they're going to look at mitigations for those properties that could suit those proceeds. It's the first for Southland, I think. So it's going to be quite a significant project. So everyone's pretty excited there. And also, I passed around a booklet earlier on between the Domes catchment group in Northern South, an excellent publication. They have a real strong focus on wetlands creation, and that discussion takes up a lot of our time here in this chamber, doesn't it? So please take it home and read through it. It's got some really interesting insights into how the community feel around certain issues and the things they want to do. So, yeah, so there are two significant meetings that I went to. Thank you.
Lyndall?
Yeah, just wanted to point out that I've noticed my own grammatical errors in my report, and I've dealt with them. I'm not blaming anybody but myself.
Price Morris hasn't picked up.
Thought I'd better get in first. But happy to answer any questions about the elected members training or the zone meeting or any of the things I have been to.
Okay. Anybody else? I know, like as I said, I've been involved with Nickel with the South Island Regional Council at a Zoom meeting. Certainly there is a huge amount of similarities. We're dealing with all the same things and all the same issues. And so it's good that we can all certainly try and build and work together. I did go to Between the Domes catchment with Peter that day, and one thing that did pop up was the owner of the property was saying, "Oh, well, I'm doing this, but nobody's going to get to see it." You know, the wee bit of why am I doing, you know, but doing it, but you know, it was like we want people to see it. But I sort of reiterated to him that it was these areas are going to be hugely important for his farming business in the future of being able to mitigate and showing. So I said, don't worry about what people can't see, exactly what you can see and how you know you're doing your bit to help some of the offsets and you know, it's area farmers do have those areas that they can doesn't affect his operation too much. So it was good to see. I did for me too. I also went to the Danone milk factory opening of their new boiler in Clydevale, so across the border to go and see what's happening over the other area next door to us. And it's certainly exciting to see how they're looking at the world in regards to carbon neutrality. And I think the rough rule of thumb, they're taking the equivalent of 10,000 cars worth of carbon out of the system by putting their furnace in. And I think they're using the rubbish wood. It's not the good wood. It's all this slash and scraping up all the waste wood to burn. So it was certainly, I think it's called hogwood. Anybody confirm that? I think that was the term.
Harry Potter, doesn't it?
Yeah. But anyway, I'll stand to be corrected on that. So it was certainly, there are companies investing in this in the long term and looking, obviously it's not a huge plant, but it's a start, you know, these people are doing that. So it's my goings on.
Yeah.
Robert.
Could I think it was Chairman, with regard to your comment about 10,000 cars being taken out of the, over what period were they talking?
Okay, now you're technical. I think is that on what they would be doing on an annual basis. So we based on an annual, what 10,000 cars burn, that's how much.
So given that it's a smaller plant,
Yes.
the Fonterra plant in Edendale there, I wonder how many, hundreds of thousands of cars worth of CO2 or whatever they're putting up into the atmosphere. Do you have any idea what that figure might be?
I personally, I haven't got the science, but I know I've heard that Fonterra could probably use most of the timber in New Zealand for their factories if needed, you know, like that's what the grapevine says. It's not, I don't know technicality, but Fonterra, I couldn't get the answer out of how many millions of litres they dry. And it's probably a very simple formula to work out. You know what the factories are doing. So, but it's something that we can certainly ask Danone. They're very, very approachable and want to share what they're doing and things like that.
Could I
So,
put in a request for that information?
Yeah, so
From
from
Fonterra?
Fonterra, so can I just make a comment on that? So Fonterra, wanting to, set up a, everything like this set up, but then we go to their plant meeting now, have a look at what they're doing and what their plans are for, moving to a different boiler system. And they'll be able to explain that to you at that time, I think. And there is I did meet with the chief operating officer a couple of months ago in Auckland, Fraser Winneray, and they are expecting to spend quite a significant amount of money upgrading that plant in order to move away from their existing system, I think. So I'll be very keen to hear that myself.
Yeah.
And so I think, Jane, you've got your feet there, so the date for that is.
That's in the diary for the 16th of February.
Wonderful. I think they were talking about 2037. Seems to be way off.
Yeah, I think it's a 10-year strategy with Transnet. I think it's quite they're looking at their capital expenditure, from what I understand, across the decade and 25 years, I think actually, to be honest. So, there's a couple of very major projects I think they've got planned for Edenvale, but that's for them to explain to us on.
there was one figure that they used four truck and trailer loads of timber. The timber to go into that factory, so it does involve a lot of movement of material, but there's certainly organisations, company, business has been expanding and building into that, so it's creating another for the economy as well, and things like that.
And I don't think any of those plans settled yet, because we're investigating what the impact of the implement is on carbon emissions.
Right, we'll
Just a couple of comments about my report here. I hope you're able to access the Parliamentary Commissioners for the Environment report on methane and planting trees. It's a very good one if you haven't already read it. And there were other people at that meeting, who were there, Jeremy and Phil. Phil sent a good report around to all of us separately to this. So the other thing I want to mention about that is that it's not recorded here, is that the chairman of Beef and Lamb New Zealand, Phil Morrison, Andrew Morrison, is to be congratulated, I think, for the difficult job that he's doing, trying to get farmers on board with the idea that, we can't just sit back and do nothing. It was a bit disconcerting. I know Peter has commented on this as well. There seems to be still quite a significant proportion of farmers that don't think that what we're doing is having an effect on the climate. And so, Andrew's work there is to be complimented, because we really do need to get everybody on board to make the changes that need to be made.
Peter and then Robert.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'm really pleased you went and visited the Gnome plant. Sort of fits in with our one of our category winners in the awardsman Yarra Valley Milk, going down the same path but a bit differently. So, for the record, I've got to work out it's 5 passenger vehicles. Their emissions will be abated by 1 hectare of pine trees. That's what I sort of work on. For interest's sake.
Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I had a question for you, Morris, and it's around your comment about some farmers not being willing to, not believing that their actions are affecting the climate. And in your report, you're talking about methane and the difference between methane and carbon dioxide in terms of potential harm or warming. You write here that methane breaks down after 10 years, but it doesn't break down to fairy dust. It breaks down to water and carbon dioxide, is that true? And then you say that that this doesn't add carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. Well, it might be a interpretation, but clearly it does. If it puts carbon dioxide into the air, you're adding. Can you explain what you mean?
The methane is made from, in the fermentation process, made from carbon dioxide and water, hydrogen. So the carbon dioxide that goes into methane, then goes back to carbon dioxide. So it's not something additional. Sure, it's still carbon dioxide that's there, but it's not like taking fossil fuels from the ground and pumping.
Recycled in
Yeah.
short term. Comes from the grass into the cow, into methane, into carbon dioxide. If there was no fossil fuel input into the pasture, that would be correct, but there isn't there.
Well, it's the fossil fuels is adding the carbon to the atmosphere, not the process of carbon.
Yeah, we did have a discussion after. Sorry, I'm just trying to work it, we're on. Neville.
Report, Chairman, I'll just report that I went to the meeting of the new mayors for a briefing on civil defence, emergency management. They just started that we do have a part of the and they know what to do. Yeah.
Thank you. Lynn?
I'm here to move the receipt of those reports.
Peter's second. I was just going to make one quick comment for people that they're listening to the scientist David Frame. Is that I'm thankful there are some very intelligent people that are working on this, and you have faith in some of these scientists, and they've been working on it for a long time, and that you know sometimes you've got to have faith in those people that they know a lot better than what we're doing on the ground. So what's very informative. Right, I've got a mover and seconder. I'll put that all in favour, say aye. Aye. Against carried. Right, move into item 1.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Chief Executive Report, many of the matters I think we've canvassed off and on over the last few weeks, but just to highlight some areas, the matter of the La Nina in this region again this summer, third summer in a row, which is quite a rare event. And so a number of the matters that are in this report relate not just to the planning for that and the update of our standard operating procedures, but also the matters relating to science that's underpinning that underway and the monitoring regime that's also going to go with that in order to ensure that we've got good quality information. So that's in a number of places in there. Feel free to ask me any questions that you have about this report, but other areas that I thought might be interesting just to note were things that you may not always see in reports from us that are unusual, like the annual dam inspections, which are highlighted in here in relation to damage control by pests, rabbits in particular, and the matter of just updates on the Undaria and Dusky and Breaksea and the intensive winter grazing permits and consent applications that are coming in. There's an update on that on page 62. The other matters that are probably unusual and exceptional in here relate to the work that's coming to a conclusion that we are doing with the Ministry for the Environment on the Freshwater Farm Plan pilot. There's a briefing on that on page 64, and where we're at in that process. It is coming to a conclusion, and that material will be going back to the Ministry for their review. And just a quick note on page 65 about the Whakamauna Te Waituna Trust annual general meeting that was held on the 3rd of December, and the desire for all parties to continue with that project, and that work is underway for the various trustees, chief executives to think through sort of how that might actually work and report back. So that's just a quick note there. And just a note that the executive has updated its CCTV body camera and web camera policy. The body camera policy, I think, is quite an important one for councillors to note in relation to our staff's health and safety, and an increasing aggressive behaviours actually in the community that our staff have been facing of late, and quite possibly resulting from general stress in the community arising from the year that's included a lot of pressures around COVID. But it has actually been a matter that we've been very concerned about, and so just noting that on page 67. And just also a note here that we're actually looking at thinking of
health and safety and our staff again, state of the building. We called us that we needed to not be in this council chamber at the beginning of the year as a result of the need to upgrade and clean up the black mold that was in here. We have ongoing maintenance issues with the building. It really needs quite a significant amount of attention. And in places it's actually, you know, quite shabby and not particularly suitable for in its current state for ongoing work. So we're actually having a really good look at sort of what the options are for that in relation to the building, and we'll be going to actually talk about that in relation to planning for our long. So that's fine.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. It's just a detail from yesterday. We had a very good presentation from our biosecurity people regarding plants. And one of the plants that was mentioned was the field horsetail, and it's in the report here. The fact that there's none being found now, it sounds like we've beaten it, which is great news. I'm just wondering about the process. What happened? Because I know that we can only deal with a certain number. We haven't the capacity or the funds to deal with every plant that's annoying us. As field horsetail becomes, it gets the tick because it's gone, does something automatically move up into the next? How does that process work? How do we do?
Very good question, Councillor. And fortunately, we sort of happen to have the person who can answer your questions. So, sitting in the room.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, every year we look at all of the different weed programs and we look at what's the priority of the year and which bit we're going to fund and which bit we're going to do. So any resource that we save from field horsetail will go on to the next week of priorities. It's likely we'll keep surveying the site for a couple of years in case it does come back and we miss anything. But yeah, we do every winter we basically go through every single weed and look at the program and work out what resource is going to be needed, and then try and make the budget go as far as it can.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. But that answers my question.
Thank you. Two quick things. I've never heard of a biological taxonomic database, and I wonder if somebody could illuminate me as to what that actually is. Page 59 in the data ecosystems paragraph. Our biological taxonomic database has been updated. I'm just wondering what. No, funnily enough. Tell me all about it, Councillor McDonald.
A 30-second explanation.
Yeah,
for that.
I do believe we have explained this previously because we usually use it in the acronym that's next for the.
Yeah, well, I don't even recognise the acronym actually, so I wasn't listening.
So you didn't ask this question previously.
Karen's not here, but I'm pretty sure it's basically a list of species.
It is.
Yeah, well, I got for that from taxonomic, but it was a.
You may have not been here, someone else asked this question previously.
It was a strange thing. The other thing I would like to say is, regards building, I would like to congratulate whoever it was that named the group the Building Intelligence Group.
Well, actually, no, that's the name of the consultants who use it.
Well, they've got a great name.
Known to us as T-Bird, so.
That's funny. Thank you.
Oh, Nicole, sorry, Nicole.
No, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just on Wilma's report on the farm plans, it would be good to have a workshop before we report back to MFE and MPI. And these will be a crucial tool for improving things on farm, but they need to be user friendly. They need to be something that farmers will be able to, in most cases, do themselves. But if they don't value it as a tool, we won't get the results we're hoping to. So I'm sure government departments are well intentioned, but it would be good to have it to be able to run our eye over the recommendations that go back. Because we're very lucky to be part of this, one of the pilots, and we want to be able to feed back good information.
That's a great point. And we were just discussing this actually at Exec on Monday, that there's been feedback going to the ministry all the way through this process, of course, because they're looking at very specific issues with us. So there's been lots of conversation between ourselves at staff level and them. But Lucy, yes, that's our intention, is to bring something. So do you want to just have a quick word to that?
Through you, Chair. So the intention is, yes, to have a workshop to discuss the detail. We've kind of finally doing the learning report. So once that's finalised, we'll be able to bring that to council formally, but we would be intending to workshop it in advance of that. Also, just note that the exposure draft of the regulations is expected pre-Christmas to those of us who've signed non-disclosures, and will be out in the public shortly after Christmas. So once we've got that, we'll have much more substantial kind of insight into what the pilots have achieved and what is still to be done with those regulations. So there'll be other opportunity for us to provide feedback as well in a more formal way. So yeah, just
While I've got you sitting on the chair, can I ask Lucy a question? So we had been looking at the calendar for the new year, councillors, and in the early version that you would have seen, we were suggesting a council meeting on the 25th of January. We're thinking of swapping it out for the workshop that's on the 1st of February, I think it is. It's whatever the first Wednesday the following week. I think it's the 1st of Feb. So that we can actually workshop with you matters relating to the legislative work that we need to reply on, which is the spatial, regional spatial strategy,
RMA
spatial act. Yeah. So we'd like to workshop that with you. You'll probably workshop this at the same event, and to move and to put the council meeting on the 1st of February so that you can actually then adopt it formally before it goes back to government. So I think that time frame would work. So you still have a meeting on the 25th, but it won't be a council meeting, so that we can workshop these matters with you ahead of a decision.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
No, thanks. Lily. The only thing I was just going to make, it's great to see around the irrigation or the water shortage direction, and we just need to keep on reiterating to the public that they will hear from us, and the ones consent holders and that will keep them well informed. We've learned a lot, so it's great to see. Right, I'll move it to the notary report.
I'll move Chair.
All and second. All in favour, say aye. Against, carried. We move on to the annual compliance monitoring report, please. Yep. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sharon Thayer. I'm the team leader of the resource management technical team. I understand that the report is distributed to the council, so I'll recommend the council note that. But I'd like to mention a few of the highlights from the report.
I just wanted to make some general comments, Chair. Without, I was going to hear this about first, but I just see some positive change coming through. The number of incidents is dropping away. That our aerial surveillance has been working. That the rural community are taking notice. We're not getting the serious incidents we used to see. Obviously, it's challenging with the increases in the rules and legislation that the rural community have to take notice of. So I'll compliment them on that. I see industry are self-reporting quite consistently on any breaches that they have. We're not getting the complaints and having to discover things. So overall, I see it as a positive report that we're making some progress.
Yeah, I guess I was going to mention some of those same things as Councillor Cook here. It's going to talk about the incidents. We had 880, which is sort of similar to last year, but it shows that there's good engagement with the community in terms of with the council reporting problems and incidents. And despite a bit of a low level in staffing with our dairy monitoring, we still managed to do 895 dairy effluent discharge inspections. So we managed to make that happen. We also had the addition of 3 new roles during the period. A couple of senior roles to help with a bit of career progression for the staff, but also going to give us an opportunity to think about the way we do things and look for some alternative ways of monitoring and some innovation in the future. So those are some of the things that I'd like to highlight from the period, the 2021-22 period. Yeah, thank you.
Any questions, Morris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I agree with Councillor Cook that that the performance of people with sense is generally improving, but there is a council on page 40 of relation to its stormwater discharge. big red line across the page. The district council stormwater seems to have improved a bit, still one or two which is there, but they've generally improved. Invercargill City Council still seems to have quite a significant problem if that's the correct interpretation. I want to know just what work is going on with the city, how this can be improved. You know, so that we don't see this big red line, we see some yellow or green squares there in the future.
Yeah, so I guess most of the issues around that relate to sewage overflows, and then they flow into the stormwater.
Contamination.
One of the positives that we've seen in the past year is the introduction of the ICC's stormwater bylaw that came into effect as of the first or the end of July, and so that gives them some more tools to be able to deal with these sorts of things. So I've just come with a meeting with them to talk about how that's going to be implemented, and so I'm actually reasonably positive about the future of the ICC's response to these issues, bearing in mind that it's quite uncertain times for some of these people in terms of the Three Waters regulations, and yeah, I think that they could sit back and say that this is not going to be, you know, there's changes here, and it might disincentivize change. So with that in mind, I think it's actually really positive to see that things going forward. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Any other questions? No, that's Julie noted that it's good to see the industry. Oh, Nickel, sorry, Nickel. Yes.
No, yes, Mr. Chairman, I guess like Morris, I'd sort of focus on that red block for ICC, and it would be good to get a report going forward. I know some of the issue is high flows. Those old systems were designed to overflow, which is problematic and it's more long-term solution. But for years, we've also heard about illegal plumbing that have been tapped into the stormwater. Be good to know whether they've actually followed up on those areas to try and eliminate those illegal discharges. I know it's been an ongoing issue.
Yep. Thanks.
Probably to Kieran's point, when we have, let's say, ongoing compliance, you know, we've had and will continue to have conversations with whoever that is. And in this case, we're talking about the ICC. And that will continue. So our expectation will be that we won't be seeing the same amount of numbers that we've seen this year. So that's the priority. But there are, you know, undoubtedly there will be challenges around the infrastructure and how they respond to that. But be assured that because it's flagged in our annual report, that is a priority for us next year to continue to have those conversations. So that will be top of our list.
Well, good, thank you. And just before I was going to say, I was good to see the industry self-regulating, and it's highly important to keep the conditions and consent. So that's all good. Can I move or ignite that? Neil and Morris, second it. All in favour, say aye. It's carried. Move on to item 3, Ellie. What is yours?
So through you, Mr. Chair. This is just an item to formalise the changes that we need to make to the Regional Pest Management Plan to fulfil the resolution and the strategy of policy committee. So those of you at the committee will remember that we brought to you a paper around the Didanian Blackcillum, and there was an agreement that we were going to amend the rules so that rather than it being an exclusion passed over the entire region, we would basically exempt the contaminated area, which is Passon Inlet. So to do that, we need to make 3 minor amendments to the plan via council resolution. And those amendments are essentially to change table 5 so that Didanian Blackcillum has got a line of its own that explains the geographic extent, amends rule 2 and 3 to put in the exemption for Passon Inlet, and then to add a map to show what that area is.
I think we went through quite a bit of this material yesterday, and I'm happy to move. I don't think we need to dwell on it. We're pretty much in agreement.
All good. Can I have a seconder for that?
Yeah.
and Lyndall.
Yep.
There's no other discussion, there's three here, we'll put that and, all in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against, carry. Thank you very much. Amy. Move on to item 4, Amy. Reading this original.
Good morning. I will take the report to highlight briefly. So RSHL is a council controlled organisation of which we were part, was set up in 2012 primarily to build the regulatory software that we use. In recent times, as council may be aware, the role of RSHL has expanded to fulfil more of a shared services delivery vehicle. And as such, the way in which that organisation is governed is changing. So council as a shareholder for RSHL is now required to nominate 2 nominees, an independent nomination and a non-independent nomination for director roles on the board. We are proposing that council consider nominating the chief executive, Walmer Faulkner, to the non-independent director nominee role, and our former independent Bruce Robertson is the independent member. Briefly, the thinking being behind that is that the chief executive is a member also of Te Ura Kahika, so the group of chief executives that drive the strategy for the regional sector, from whom RSHL in their new form will take direction. So actually having the chief executive or chief executives on the board helps to create that bridge. In terms of our recommendation of Mr. Robertson. Mr. Robertson clearly is known to us, but also works across the sector very, very broadly and can bring his experience of the board sector to that role as RSHL involved.
Well,
You have a move that, Neil?
the staff report that the chief executive and Mr. Bruce Robertson be going to that role in that organisation.
You have to move all those 4 anyway.
Yeah, 4 recommendations.
4 recommendations.
How many are you doing?
That's the report.
Question, Chairman,
Yeah.
number 4, authorise an officer to complete the notice of nomination. Who would that be?
Me or my wonderful
We need to name one of you.
I just think staff, just
Does it say an officer, so shall we just direct that?
authorise an officer, so authorise staff or an officer.
Authorise staff.
So you're moving all those. Yes, that's all good. Second, Nicol?
Yeah, well, happy to second that motion, and I think with the changes in RSHL providing a larger suite of services to the whole regional sector, I think it's appropriate we have our CEO on that. And if Bruce Robertson, with his auditing experience, is prepared to accept the nomination, I think that would be a very good addition to that too. So happy to second.
Okay, I'm happy to. Amy?
Yeah, through you, Chair, just I have spoken to both parties before nomination, just so you read that. So Bruce is aware, just to that point. Now we are nominating them, there'll be a further process by which the nominees, because all shareholding councils get an opportunity to do the same, and therefore there will be an opportunity for council to consider the nominations and vote on those early in the new year. So we'll bring that back to council when we have that information.
Good. Any more discussion? See any, I'm happy to put that, the recommendation, all in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Proposed change in membership. And Danny leading this. Oh, item 5, sorry, I'm going to update. I get too carried away at 6.
You're getting through the agenda very well.
Delegation thing.
This item is can largely be taken as read. The report explains the changes council is required to keep its delegations manual up to date. Any type of changes or changes to authorisation levels for staff within the organisation, and the current provisions and proposed changes are outlined in the report.
I'm happy to move. It's procedural. It's pretty much well explained. I'll move.
I've got a seconder. Morris, if there's no other discussion regarding that, I'll put that, all in favour say aye. Against, carried. Put that back to number 6, Jan again.
This is a proposed change in membership of the Finance and Performance Committee, and it's come about at the request of Councillor Pemberton, who is not here today, and Councillor Gibson. And
He's not here either.
Right, not here, so. I'm happy, can I move and second it for that, please? Morris, and Neville, taking it all in favour, say aye.
Yeah.
Against, carried. Dan.
Item 7 is the 2023 proposed meeting calendar. Councils are asked to adopt the calendar for the forthcoming year. And as you're aware, it changes on a weekly basis, more or less, and it has changed since we submitted the draft to you. So basically, as Wilma mentioned before, the council meeting proposed for the 25th of January will now become a workshop session. On the 30th and 31st of January, we're proposing to have a strategic retreat with council. There'll be more details coming up on that. On the 1st of February, we will put a council meeting on that day. It's likely the portfolio workshop will still go ahead because we're not anticipating a large meeting on that day, so possible we will fill the day anyway. And yes, as discussed earlier, it's proposed to have a council trip to the Fonterra factory on the 16th of February, which is listed there. That's what we know, best information at this date. There are a number of liaison committee meetings to go into February. Those dates aren't set yet. May stretch into March, but I know the finance team are keen for it to be in February if possible.
You're happy to move that?
Well, I was going to move it, but I just wondered if we shouldn't include the word draft in there somewhere, given that it is a flexible arrangement, and I wouldn't like to be bound by a resolution that we can't shift later.
Draft meeting.
You might be problematic for people.
We understand.
We do change it.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy, if you're happy to move it as it is.
Yep.
Eric, from the second. Peter. Put that all in favour, say aye. Against, carried. On to item 8, council's meeting schedule.
And monthly, actually, we were connecting to the number covering the period basically since the right through of a number of past items. No, the only changes at the end of it's supposed to be end of the year function. The council has been cancelled tonight, and the chairman is an apology for the Thriving Southland event.
Yeah, I'm going for a Thriving Southland meeting tomorrow.
Well, with that, I think there's a meeting.
Yeah. Anybody else got any? Second.
Just one change there. If Peter McDonald picked it up, he should be down for the Waituna AGM. Which was the 3rd of November. Yeah.
We're going to deliver a Christmas gift if we don't have a Christmas card.
Put your sock out on Christmas Eve. You know, you never know, you'll come down the chimney. Right?
What about the embarrassing stories?
Yeah. You'll email them.
Can I just speak about what Nicole was to say?
I've got that. Councillor McDonald attended. Sorry. I'll add that to the list.
With those couple of amendments, some of them. Lyndall, move it. Are you going to, Neville, all in favour, say aye. Against, carried. On to item 9.
And this is a reporting of commitments into above delegated authority of staff. It's required by the council's delegations manual. There are 4 separate items set out and an explanation in the report as to what each of those items related to. There's nothing out of the ordinary or unexpected in any of those items.
Okay, I'm happy to look for a mover.
Spelling an item G.
Yes, so that's
Thank you, Morris. I knew you'd come to the floor at some stage.
Walking around.
Keep you there. Apart from that, is there a mover and second of
Chairman,
Neville,
manageable ones.
Peter? Any more discussion? All right. All in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Item 10, Council Eric. Happy to move that. Someone second it, please.
Oh, yeah.
Peter, sorry, yep, Peter. All in favour, say aye. Against, carried. All right. Move into public history from the regions, please.
To enable any local authority holding information to carry out without compliance with disadvantaged commercial activity and to prevent the disclosure or use of any official information for improper gain or advantage.
Thank you, but I'll move second to even Morris. Peter, all in favour, say aye. Against, carried. We have confirmation that things are switched off.